to get back here at some point, but I wasn't sure when. You know? Mr. Corsini's on his way in as well. He's right behind you.
Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was provided on January 5th, 2021, by sending a written notice with an electronic notice to the Courier News, the Star Letter, posting on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing in the township clerk. A subsequent notice with live stream information was provided on June 7th, 2021. Live stream is available at https://webinar.greencentralcom/j/14524393009. You can also call in using telephone number 1-470-869-2200 using webinar ID 145-243-9309. Just for anyone that is listening in, please be reminded that anyone that is live streaming the meeting will not have an opportunity to participate in the meeting. Anyone that wishes to address this council must do so by appearing in person. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Kirsch?
Here.
Councilman Cardillo?
Here.
Councilman Nogales?
Here.
Councilman Ring?
Good evening here.
President Pedrosa?
Here, thank you. As it is custom, we will now do the roll call, but I would like to, right after the roll call, just do a moment of silence to remember the 106 individuals, Bridgewater residents, that have passed away as a result of COVID-19. Please, are able to rise, please join me in the pledge. Tonight's a historical night here in Bridgewater Township. It's actually the first time that this council, this governing body, is live streaming a meeting to the public. That's exciting. We've had a historic year. We also had, for the first time we had, during our reorganization meeting, we had all four of the major religious groups in Bridgewater Township provide their blessings for the governing body. And we also, this governing body passed the largest road infrastructure improvement budget in Bridgewater's history at $8 million. Very happy to be back here tonight and to be able to do the public's service through this council chamber, and I welcome you all here this evening. We have some minutes for approval. May 17, 2021. Are there any comments?
I'll move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that minutes are approved. Item 5, Township Council reports. So another one, Council Vice President Padilla.
Thank you, Bruce. I'd just like to report the following. On Memorial Day, it was my honor and my pleasure to attend the Memorial Day ceremony in Martinsville at Loft Park with the Martinsville VFW Post 6588. And 27th, I attended a meeting with rescue squad captains and our OEM coordinator, Jamie Edwards, to address some discussions with the township rescue squads.
Thank you, sir. Councilman
Thank you, Mr. President. Attended along with Mayor Mensch and Administrator Pappas a meeting with senior members of the Hindu Ventuswamy Temple community, including board chairman Babanidhu Kushipudi and Bridgewater resident Saker Vemparala. The subject was meet and greet to help the township representatives better understand the workings of the temple. The Old Farm Road sewer installation is proceeding and will result in newly paved road in the near future, and I think all the residents are looking forward to that. Thanks to our clerk's office staff, Linda and Grace, for a successful primary election, which required a tremendous amount of coordination on their part. They were handicapped by the county election board not being able to fully staff polling worker spots, and in some cases, I understand there's only one worker at one of those spots. Congratulations to Michael Kirsch running for county commissioner and Michael Pappas running for state senator. Both will run in the November election. Lastly, participated along with Council President Pedroso in the combined Center Bridge 1 and 2 board meeting to be updated on their compliance with the CDC requirements for handling COVID. They far surpassed all of the sanitation requirements. That's my report.
Thank you, Council President Pedroso. It's been about 15 months since we were last here in person, and I'm sure it will come as no surprise to the administration or Council President Pedroso that I'm very happy we're back in person. In fact, they may be happier than me because now they don't have to listen to me ask them about resuming our meetings in person. So very happy to be back here. And as I was preparing some comments for tonight, I couldn't help but think of our last meeting here back in on the dais in March of 2020. About 15 months ago, and everything that has happened since then. Since last March, we've seen the community come together to help neighbors and friends. Our first responders, in particular our volunteer rescue squad, stepped up their game, and even with a heightened risk of COVID to their membership, continued to answer the call of duty. We saw groups of residents band together to help their neighbors and strangers by obtaining personal protective equipment, to making masks, to helping collect and distribute food. There are many groups that truly helped the community through the last 15 months, and I'm sure if I tried to list all of them, I would miss many. But to everyone that has stepped up to help over the last 15 months, I extend my sincere thanks. We now have a vaccine for COVID-19 readily available. Governor Murphy has set a goal to have 70% of the state's population over the age of 18 fully vaccinated by July 1st. Another example of Bridgewater stepping up in the fight against COVID. According to data released last week, the residents of Bridgewater have already met that goal 1 month early. While COVID has unified our community, we must not forget all the residents who were impacted by COVID. Over 2,600 of our residents contracted COVID-19, and over 100 of our friends, neighbors, and relatives passed away after contracting COVID. Just outside this building, near the entrance to Kidd Street, we have a tree that was donated by Bridgewater resident Barbara Ronka with the intent that it will serve as a symbol of healing and hope, as well as a memorial to those no longer here with us because of COVID. We've seen significant impact to our business community with over 1/3 of the small businesses in New Jersey going out of business during the last year. We have many great restaurants and businesses in Bridgewater, and I hope our residents will continue to support them. While the town was forced to meet virtually the last 15 months, I'm pleased that the town continued to operate and provide services for our residents. While restrictions and loss of revenue caused the town to change how they serve residents, township employees stepped up and rose to the challenge. Thank you to all of our employees for their efforts. Even with the progress we've made, COVID is not gone. I hope the medical community will continue to work and advance treatments for those still fighting, as well as for those who may contract COVID in the future. And I'm sure the residents of Bridgewater will continue to help those impacted. Shifting gears for a minute, since our last council meeting, I also participated in the meeting Councilman Cardilla mentioned with the Emergency Management Coordinator and the volunteer rescue squads to discuss some common concerns and ways the council may be able to help address some items for them. I hope to have more information at our next meeting on this.
Last night, I attended the Somerset County Governing Officials Association, in which Paul Pena from the New Jersey League of Municipalities spoke about the American Relief Plan and cannabis legalization. The legalization of cannabis continues to be plagued with challenges throughout the state. Since the legislature was originally voted earlier this year on cannabis, there have been 3 cleanup bills designed to clean up issues with the original legislation, including a cleanup bill to the cleanup bill. There was also some discussion last night that for those municipalities that do opt into the cannabis program, the current legislation does not have any built-in protections regarding the municipal 2% tax on cannabis activity. There was some concern raised that the state could eventually keep all or a portion of the 2% tax, much like they did with the prior public utilities gross receipt tax back in the early 2000s. It was also reported that the state is having some discussions at the state level about eliminating medical marijuana program that currently exists in New Jersey and operating everything through the new cannabis program. According to Mr. Pena, the league is informally tracking municipalities which opt out of cannabis. There were 70 municipalities that had previously opted out before the legislative action and the vote. As of yesterday, that list is up to 110 municipalities that have either opted out or are in the process of opting out. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I guess the challenge in going last is some of the items I was going to speak about have already been mentioned. I'm sorry. Last of the non-leader of the group. Thank you. So I'm thrilled to be back in person. This is our home. This is where our government operates. I think it needs to be said that our government operated exceedingly well when we were not able to be in person. This council operated exceedingly well, so certainly great credit to former Council President Norgalis for, it was about 9, almost 10 months of virtual, and certainly for the first portion of this year under our current Council President Pedroso. It is, obviously sad for all of us that we sit here tonight 15 months after our last meeting, and 106 fewer of our residents are with us. That's just an incalculable loss, and hopefully we can continue our personal, our professional, and our volunteer work as a tribute to those who are no longer here. I also was at the Somerset County Governing Officials meeting yesterday, and the one item that I wanted to highlight was in relation to the CARES Act. There was significant conversation about that. There was considerable conversation about certain deadlines, certain requirements as part of the application process. Certainly I'm certain that Administrator Pappas, Mayor Mensch, will be on top of that. But the net I took away was that there is an assumption that some of that money is not going to get used. It will be a use it or lose it, and there may be an opportunity for those who do use it to potentially even get a second chance, a second bite at the apple, if you will. Back on May 22nd, so I believe that was after our last time we met, I was at the community bulky trash event with Councilman Cardilla. The planning board met on May 25th, and we approved an application for Aspen Dental at what was previously known as Albers, and then was later for a brief period of time the AAA office. It's over by the Buffalo Wild Wings. It is a challenging property based on its access, but it is a good application. It was approved, and we expect they will be a significant positive addition to our community. On Memorial Day, I was able to spend a portion of the afternoon right after the parade ended at the American Legion Post 327 in Bradley Gardens. So I had an opportunity to meet with many of our veterans and other guests, and certainly, that was a great experience as a councilman to be able to express gratitude on behalf of our community. As was mentioned, we had a primary a couple days ago, and it would appear that procedures returned to normal with people voting in the 12 different locations for our 36 districts. At our previous meeting, I mentioned that planning is underway for early voting. And while we don't have anything official to report yet, I am hoping that in the next several weeks, we can notify our community that there will be an additional, very convenient option for Bridgewater and surrounding residents. So in addition to the drop box that we have outside, we are hopeful that we'll be able to report a very convenient in-person option for the 10 days, roughly 10 days preceding the November 2nd election. And that is my report.
Thank you, sir. I just,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just a technical question. Are all the mics on the dais on? Because I could only hear a couple of the council members speaking.
I just want to thank the administration, Mr. Pappas, Mr. Vinegar, for working closely with me and getting this meeting back to, some of the mics don't work. Get this meeting back here in person. It was very important, I believe, for people that we come back and do the business here in council chambers. And for me as council president, it was important that we did this in a way that we could continue to run meetings effectively here, but also provide a certain amount of comfort to the public, and also by having an area of social distancing and mask wearing for people who may choose to still do that. And at the same time, I thought it was important to continue to broadcast the meetings. The public has sort of become accustomed to that. I think it's a great way to increase public transparency of our meetings. I strongly support broadcasting of government, all government meetings, frankly, through the internet. The technology exists, we should do it. Having said that, this all happened fairly quickly. We've done the best we can to provide a way to do this. We set up a video camera here in the courtroom. We also have a microphone in the room here in the center. I'm aware that the sound quality is not the greatest. We're going to work on that and make improvements. This was really a temporary setup to get this going as quickly as possible. So please bear with us as we make improvements to our technology here at council chambers and improve our abilities to better broadcast these meetings in the future. It certainly took a lot of planning and work. I had some meetings with administration and again, spoke to the health officer and just get everything in line to do this the right way. So thank you everyone that participated in doing that. Moving on to mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the mayor's absence this evening, I'll just report on it.
I think just try to keep your voice up a little bit higher than you normally would. Number one, we're having some issues with the mics. I'm not sure why, but number two, we only have one microphone that's picking up sound to be live streamed. So try to keep it a little bit higher than you normally would.
Sure. On behalf of Mayor Mensch, I have just a few things I would like to comment on. One is actually an item on the agenda. The other two are not. The council, as one or two of you have said, the council approved an $8 million bond ordinance for the road program. Tonight, there is an item that would award a contract for the Garfield Avenue Lincoln Street project, which we're very pleased. There were 5 bids, and this obviously is the lowest bidder and a company who has done great work for Bridgewater Township in the past. The other item is the Senior Citizen Center was reopened this past Monday after having been closed for well over a year, and we're very pleased with the turnout. They were closed on Tuesday because of the primary election, and there was because that was a polling place, but they've resumed yesterday and continue to see seniors return very happily. The last item that I want to report, and only issue a part of the statement that I know the mayor would have made, and really want to defer to him for a substantive point, but the Township Council has been inquiring of the administration the status of the proposed budget for 2021. We have been waiting, and actually this past Friday, the State Department of Community Affairs finally issued the guidance that we have been waiting for months regarding the federal relief that had been referenced earlier by one or two of the council members. That had made it virtually impossible for the administration to properly plan for the revenue that would now be able to be officially used as certainly an option for the administration and the council. And we expect certainly by the next week or two, the administration and the Council Finance Committee will meet, and we have as a goal, as an administration, to propose something for the council to consider at the next meeting officially, assuming those conversations can take place. But we think we are ready, and again, I wanted to defer personally to the mayor for definitive statement about some policy issues. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Next item that we have is open the meeting to the public. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will be allowed 2 minutes to speak unless there are unusual circumstances. Sir, step right up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jim Lambert, L-A-M-B-E-R-T. My wife and I have lived at 1004 Brown Road for 22 years, and we raised our family there. In the summer of 2016, Bridgewater Township Public Works built a fence for my next-door neighbor as part of a larger project. Later that year, in December, they came to the Township Zoning Board for a variance for a 6-foot-high, solid white vinyl fence on top of a 2-foot-high berm less than 25 feet from the property line. Shortly after that variance was approved, I made the Public Works engineer at the time aware that a portion of that fence, about 40 feet, was constructed on our property. After numerous meetings and conversations with Public Works engineers and other public officials, including 2 mayors, the fence remains on our property almost 5 years later. And I just love to know, we've been to Tom Genova, we've been to the zoning board, we've asked everybody, what do we have to do to get that fence off our property? I'm done, sir. Thank you.
I can certainly make some comments. The issue that Mr. Lambert references is an issue that I believe is related to a number of other issues in that part of the community. I've not had the chance to speak to him myself. I know Mr. Genova has, and as you've said, sir, many people prior to them have been in contact with you. There are other associated drainage issues in that neighborhood that are significant and have been reviewed. This council in previous years has engaged several engineering firms to conduct some analysis, and Mr. Burr, our current engineer, has been working with Mr. Genova for, frankly, many, many months in trying to review the record and the associated issues, because it is a very, very complicated issue. I've personally been in this area, not been on Mr. Lambert's property, although I've seen the fence that he's referenced. There's drainage ditches and catch basins that the township has constructed over the years. So I think I need to consult with Mr. Genova and Mr. Burr again to see what the latest is, and certainly can report back to the council at the next meeting.
sounds like there's a drainage issue, and I don't want to comment on that. But if it was in a vacuum, great. So, you know, you could, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's trespassing, right? You know, but it does sound like there's some drainage issues. It does sound like the administration's aware of it now. You have, you finish it.
Mr. Papa can follow up with you. Do you have Mr. Lambert's contact?
I do not, but I'm sure I can get it from
Mr.
Mr.
Genova does, as does Mr. Burr.
Well, you can follow up with Mr. Papa directly.
Gladly. I don't need to follow up. A couple weeks would probably be appropriate, right?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members. My name is Curtis Kraut, 199 Adamsville Road in the township. Basically, I'm here because I'm quite frustrated with the lack of responsiveness on a couple of issues that I've been working with the township on for some time. In particular, and the most critical at the moment, is the fact that I happen to live along Cuckolds Brook, which is a major drainage way that services the foothill region of the town, Route 287, Route 22, the businesses along the eastbound side of, east and westbound sides of Route 22, and then all the residents and businesses going through Findern all the way to the Raritan River. Basically, this sections of the brook south of Route 22 are regularly prone to flooding, and periodic maintenance in order to keep the channel clean, the channel clean of debris, is necessary in order to minimize flooding potential on that type of issue. I contacted the township on May 7th with a written request to have some obstruction removed from the channel of the brook, and this process is typically called desnagging. It doesn't involve dredging the brook. It doesn't involve DEP permits. It basically requires light hand tool access. I mean, it could be like chainsaws and such, but the brook needs to be desnagged in this spot. There's a large tree down in the channel of the brook. I contacted the township specifically to have members of DPW and/or the Municipal Services Group come out and make an assessment. And in the past, when issues such as desnagging and removing obstructions within the channel have been raised, they've been brought to DPW, or they've been brought to the Municipal Services Group or the administration. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, I can't hear. I'm sorry, I can't. Sure. So basically, the township has accessed the brook in the past in order to do desnagging by obtaining temporary easements from residents when necessary to enter their properties in order to do that. Basically, it's been more than a month at this point since this request has been into the township, and I'd like to understand why it can't be expedited.
Mr. Kraut and I have met and we've spoken on a few occasions. He's first contacted the township many years ago on another drainage issue that is prevalent in that part of the community. More recently, as he said, he contacted us regarding this fallen tree. We have spoken about it. I've had consultation with our municipal attorney and others. And as he pointed out, that would require legally a temporary easement the township would need to obtain because this tree that has fallen is on private property. The township does not have any easement, no legal obligation to remove the tree, and we have so far not pursued this because, frankly, with limited resources that we have, this could begin a process where we could have numerous requests such as this all over town. Not minimizing the scenario that he's pointed out, but at this point, we have not been able to respond to him as he's requested for those reasons. No. 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 It's private property. There's private. I can't recall where the property line is, but it's private property.
But like the tree that is fallen is on private property.
Correct.
Has the property owner been contacted to remove his property?
We have not. We have not.
Again, this would be an action where if the neighbor's creating a nuisance on his property, you would have to be moving forward. I would think.
You would, I know Mr. Burr is also, from the perspective of hearing, I would defer to that. But again, once again, as president, you have to use the law in a vacuum, that would be the case. But I think, as with Mr. Lambert,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crowe. We appreciate you do well. Anyone else wish to address the body? All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to close public input.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, public portion is closed. Item number 9, we have an ordinance for consideration for final action. 9A, an ordinance replacing chapter 126, land use, part 11, special environmental requirements. Title removal and preservation of trees, section 126-278 and 126-272. Municipal code of the township of Bridgewater, for the purpose of expanding the definition section, delineating additional exceptions, setting forth a procedure for obtaining a permit, delineating the criteria for tree removal, and setting forth a tree removal application fee in accordance therewith. Mr. Papa.
No, it's just that Mr. Genova, Director of Municipal Services, had recommended this. There had been some serious concerns about how trees were being removed and large trees, and the township ordinance needed to be enhanced, and that's what this is proposed to be. He had consulted with numerous other officials, Ms. Doyle, Mr. Burr, and others, and he was extremely deliberate in ensuring that all the appropriate perspectives were considered.
This is an ordinance that Councilman Orgalis worked closely with the administration on.
That's right.
Tweaking the ruling.
Yes. I'm sorry I forgot that. Yes, absolutely.
Any additional comments, Mr. Orgalis? I would like the honor
No,
of,
sir, I believe ordinances are living documents that need to be updated as required, and this is one of those that needed a substantial number of adjustments.
is that a motion? Is that a motion?
That's it.
Yes?
Do we have, this is the public hearing?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is fine. Okay, so, at this point, we can open the meeting to the public to comment on ordinance 9A.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Aye.
Hearing none, anyone from the public wishing to address this body on ordinance 9A?
I move, close public action on this and for final action on 9A.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Councilman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ray?
Yes.
President Pedrosa?
Moving on to, item 10A. Resolution of the Township of Bridgewater, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, canceling a certain funded appropriation balance previously adopted by the Township of Bridgewater for a sewer utility project in the amount of $1.5 million. Mr. Power.
The township, a number of years ago, adopted a capital ordinance for a number of purposes, equipment purchases, the Woodland Terrace road reconstruction, and sewer line for Woodland Terrace. It was determined by Department of Engineering that the sewer project was not necessary and certainly not feasible, with the significant extension of a line that would need to access Woodland Terrace. And so this $1.5 million is proposed to be canceled, and ordinance, next item on the agenda is the proposal to utilize it for the sewer utility, and we can speak about that later, or I can speak about that now if you'd like, whatever you prefer. But this cancellation has to take place in order for those funds to be made available for another sewer-related project, but not Woodland Terrace sewer line.
Thank you for that. Any questions by the council?
I'll move 10A.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to section 11, introduction of ordinances. We have three. 11A, an ordinance providing funding for various improvements to the Gilbride and Middlebrook sewer pump stations for the township of Bridgewater and appropriating $1.5 million for such purpose. Mr. Cochran?
As I said earlier, and I think Councilman Norgalis may have,
I would love to make a couple.
go ahead. I'll wait and,
I was fortunate, and I appreciate Mr. Pappas arranging for he and I to do a walkthrough of both the Gilbride pumping station, which was built in 1985, and the Middlebrook station, which was built in 1965. Both, roads are great because everybody sees them and everybody encourages, wants new paving. The stuff that's underground, like a storage pumping station, nobody sees it, and not many people worry about it. Well, we have to worry about it. And there are several maintenance needs. There are pumps and valves that need to be addressed, some of which will have to be replaced. Also, especially in the Middlebrook one, the lower level where the actual pump pit sits doesn't even have a monitor for confined space monitors. So in 1965, it didn't require this. We need to bring these up to date. Hopefully, $1.5 million will be sufficient. Maybe it will, maybe it will not. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done in both these locations. And I, for one, am overjoyed that the money has been identified and can be allocated for these projects. With that in mind, I would move the introduction of this ordinance.
If I may, Philippe, I'd like to add a comment to this. I absolutely agree with Councilman Norgalis, but I do have a question, because I do acknowledge that this is a serious problem. If the pump breaks, the valve breaks, this is something that we should have the equipment on hand to replace. And it's my understanding that while we move forward with this, if we were to lose a pump, a new pump takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get. So what I'd like to see if we could consider as part of this ordinance is that while we address the current needs of it, that part of it be we get some spare parts, like some spare valve or a spare pump, that in the event of an emergency and we do have to replace that hardware, we could have it in place already, and next event, the equipment that we would be ordering would basically be to replace the spare that's going to be put in service.
Just to put it in perspective, there are 3 pumps at each of these stations, and 2 of them are designed to be online, and there's always supposed to be one that's spare, and that's part of the problem. We've been using the spare, so your concern is well-founded. We want people to be able to run water in their sink and flush their toilets. Those are the most important things. And part and parcel of this also is an engineering analysis that will confirm
we've all been there, and I agree with you, and I,
Well, you and I have, I don't know if anybody else has.
you know, it's a serious problem, but I also feel that as time goes by, 10 years goes by, you know, it's gonna be tougher to get a pump to replace what we have without any additional engineering. So that, for the project, I do support it, but I would hope there would be consideration that we also get a spare, you know, some spare equipment that we don't, where we wouldn't get caught short in the future. Yeah, that'd be my second.
Councilman Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Padilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales? Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Pedrosa? We will have the public hearing and final action in this courtroom the 21st day of June 2021 at 7:30 PM. And it will also be live on broadcast.
11B, ordinance amending chapter 4, section 4-85 of the municipal code of the township of Bridgewater entitled Office of Emergency Management to codify certain provisions of the Civil Defense and Disaster Control Act. Who wants to talk about this? Councilman Ring, you want to bring it up?
I can, if I can, yes. The CERT team is a very critical component of the Office of Emergency Management's response in any kind of an emergency. This, as we are trying to do in many instances, this is an enhancement and updating of an ordinance to ensure that the volunteers are sufficiently covered and that the structure is in line with current practices.
Any questions, comments, or motion?
I'll second.
Councilman Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Padilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales? Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Pedrosa? And the public hearing will be set for the 21st day of June 2021 at 7:30 PM here at the Municipal Court Chambers, 100 Commons Way, and also via live online broadcast.
Thank you. 11C, an ordinance amending chapter 99 entitled Fire Prevention, section 99-13, entitled Fire Watch and Fire Safety Standby Policy, to adjust the fees for service.
Similar to what was done a few months ago, this is a review and recommendation for some adjustments to some of the fees to cover the costs of our inspections.
Questions?
No, I just had a comment that this has been in place for many, many years. And being familiar with the industrial park and some of the fire watches that have gone on in those buildings, I would support the change in this ordinance, which is primarily a fee change. And I'd be happy to make a motion to move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Padilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Pedrosa?
Yes.
We will set the public hearing and final action on the 21st day of June 2021 at 7:30 PM here at 100 Commons Way in the Municipal Court Chambers, and also via live on broadcast.
There's an issue here, a column mark maximum penalty, and Ms. Pappas and I have discussed the fact that there might be a requirement for a few more words to explain what that comment means. I don't think it would be of material nature, so I believe that change could be made now, between now and final adoption, without it falling off the rails.
Right. That looks like Mr. Christina, unless the typo could be material. So, okay, we'll have to look at it. Moving on to resolution. 12A, resolution providing for emergency temporary appropriations to the current fund of $5,860,000.68.
This is what we would hope to be the last proposed temporary budget addition for 2021. as I said earlier, I certainly expect that the finalized draft of the budget will be before the council within weeks.
I have a question, but I would make a motion to move it.
Second.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales? Councilman Ring?
Yes.
Resolution appointing Wells Vinegar and Christine Madrid as Bridgewater's representatives to the Middlebrook Health Commission.
The council approved the joining of the Middlebrook Health Commission by the township. As being a member municipality, it entitles the township for 2 voting representatives on their Board of Commissioners, and the mayor is recommending Mr. Wininger and Mrs. Madrid.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales? Councilman Ring?
Yes.
This firm and Mr. Bevan and Mr. Mosca in particular have extensive experience in working with the NJDEP and the Board of Public Utilities, and they are assisting us in some negotiations regarding agreements with other municipalities for sewer utility services.
I'll move 12C.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Resolution authorizing qualified vendors for various open-ended professional engineering services for the township of Bridgewater for the year 2021 to 2022.
We have used a number of these engineering firms for various projects. Mr. Corsini and Ms. Witt, our purchasing agent, created a process to enable the municipality to pre-qualify the engineering firms, and this then, if approved, would allow the township to engage them for various projects. Obviously, those engagements would come back before the council for approval.
We've done this with other services as well. It's just.
Correct.
It's designating your bench, if you will, and
Correct.
when you need, you find who's the best one on the bench.
Correct.
Sure.
Yes.
Councilman Cadilla?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Yes. 12E, authorizing the sale of various items listed in the attached schedule of municipal personnel property owned by the township of Bridgewater through Somerset County Cooperative Program using Gov Deals in the manner of public and/or internet auction. Mr. Cochran.
There have been a number of items that have been determined to be no longer useful to the township, and memo has been, actually a revised memo was prepared by Mr. Schimpf, which I believe Ms. Doyle circulated to the council. This would enable us to try to sell them.
Including a bulldozer, so that's. I'll make the motion.
Can I ask a question now? Sure. The only, I understand, this is typically what we see with equipment that's worn out and so forth. But I see a Ford Fusion with 38,000 miles on it. That's all?
Yeah, this is the new list that removes that and one other vehicle, Alan, right here.
Trying to get the new list.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there it
Okay.
is. There it is.
I withdraw my comment.
And as you look at the list, the first column, if you're not clear, that's actually the first two digits, that number, that's the year of the vehicle. So you're looking at stuff that's 19, 20 years old on some of it. Actually,
40 years old.
you got stuff back from, a walk-behind mower from 1980. So,
So safe to say we've gotten our life out of this machinery. I will make the motion to approve.
second.
Yes.
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 Authorizing the Township of Bridgewater, Office of Emergency Management, to accept funds from the Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG/Emergency Management Agency Assistance, EMAA. Total amount of the award in the amount of $10,000 federal funds.
In the past, this past year, I can recall, this required a match, and this year it does not. So it is a straight grant to the township to offset the emergency management coordinator's compensation.
If I may, just to add, obtaining this grant is not just simply filling out a form. There's various activities that the Office of Emergency Management has to do over the course of the year through different exercises and documentation and stuff. So this is something that, while we've been very fortunate to get it for a number of years, it's because of the efforts of the Emergency Management Office and their activities ongoing, so.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Mr. Pedroso. I mentioned this earlier, but will emphasize, as you can see in the resolution, there were 5 firms that submitted bids. The high bid was $773,000, and the bid that is proposed to be awarded by the council tonight is for $524,000 to Top Line for roads that certainly have needed to be reconstructed for quite some time.
I move 12G, Top Line is a top line business. They have done many of our roads, and I'm sure we'll get a good job.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes to more roads.
12H, authorizing the release of the performance guarantee in the amount of $7,500 and acceptance of the like improvements for block 663, block 8102, which is BFD Properties, Inc., 1 Jeffrey Lane, Bridgewater, New Jersey. Mr. Popper.
Yes, this is a performance guarantee release that Mr. Burr has recommended. The improvements associated with this project have been completed to his satisfaction. This is I think, a single-family home. There was some curbing and apron work in the right-of-way that was required, and it has been completed to his satisfaction.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Yes.
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 12I, supporting the proposed NJDOT temporary detour to Bridgewater Township due to replacement bridge deck as the NJDOT Central Road over Route 78.
Mr. Pedroso, the administration is going to request that the council remove this and put it on the next agenda. Mr. Norgalis had contacted me earlier and asked for copy of the detour map, and Mr. Wininger had requested it, and we've not received it, so until I think we all see the detour map, we would propose that the council not act.
My apology, I believe you had asked me that.
All right.
Yes, that's not a problem. We will withdraw by from the agenda. Okay, moving on to items 13, which are 2021, 2022 liquor license renewals. If there's no objection by the council, I am going to read 13A through 13E, and then 13F through 13K, and then ask for us to make a motion on all of those together. Unless the council wishes to pull any of those out.
I have no desire for a different approach.
Mr. Pedroso, if I could just say that the Detective Dunlop is here, and if anyone has any questions from the police department, he's the police department official that has processed these. And of course, Chief Payne is here.